All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Another episode of the Logical Gamer Show. Today, we are coming with a rapid reaction of the early access of the first two episodes of Life is Strange Double Exposure. Before we get into it, remember to like, subscribe down below, hit us in the comments what you think. And there are spoilers. This is a full spoiler walkthrough of both episodes, our reaction to it. So if you haven't played it yet or you want to keep everything a surprise, make sure you mute this and come back to it afterwards to get our reaction coupled with yours to what you thought of the first game. Again, spoilers below, so if you keep listening, that's on you, everybody. Now, before we go any further, I just want to remind everybody the original game, Life is Strange, to me, is the best game ever created, bar none. It's the only game that teaches you how to uh, basically become a better human being. I love the game. We were the first one to interview Hannah Tell, the voice actress for Max Caulfield, who is back in this game. When the game first came out back in 2015, between episodes 4 and 5. So there's a lot of history there for that game. Huge game. No game will ever be better than this for the context involved. For me, I find it very difficult to do. So coming in, I didn't know what to expect when we first saw this at the Xbox release in June. Couldn't wait for it. Soon as the pre-orders went up, I went live with the deluxe edition to get the ultimate edition to get the 2 weeks early access. Played through both episodes. It was about 220 for the first one and about 3 hours and 10 for the second one, and that includes a couple of minutes where I messed around where I wasn't sure. I couldn't figure out what to do. So you're looking at about 5 hours total for both episodes. Just about 220, two and a half each episode, which is right on par of the first game. Now, if you played the first game, you remember there's two endings that you could have picked from. You could have picked from saving Chloe or saving Acadia Bay. Actually, it was sacrificing Chloe and sacrificing Acadia Bay. So, like most people, I chose to sacrifice the town and save Chloe. Now, again, while you could argue that might not be the right thing to do because you killed so many, sacrificed so many people. At that point, I was like, I played this entire game trying to rescue Chloe and bring her back. I'm not just gonna bounce her then. So I kept it. Now coming into this game, since the original game was Don't Nod, this was Deck Nine. People were like, "What is gonna happen? How are they gonna differentiate the first game? What ending are they gonna just make a canon ending or what is it?" Now, they did say that both ending choices will be implemented in there based on what we pick at the beginning of the game, but I didn't know how it was going to do it. I thought it was going to be set up where it was going to be one of those, intro menu things where it says import your save file from the first game, or just asking you which one did you pick, and you pick save Chloe or save the town, and then it would automatically generate the game for those choices. That's not what happened. And they did it differently, which was kind of interesting the way they set it up. But the choices and the wording they used for those choices, it kind of pissed me off because, excuse me, in the game, you're talking to one of your friends, Safi, in the game, and you're sitting there, and she goes, "Oh, what about that girl in the locker in the blue hair? What's with you two?" Now, you have a choice to say, "We were just friends," or "We were kind of high school sweethearts." Now, just friends is messed up because you weren't. Why even lie? But even if you're going to tell the truth and say that you guys were involved, high school sweethearts vastly undersells what Max and Chloe really were, what their relationship was about. Uh, there's no way. I mean, I guess the whole point of that was to kind of Max is hiding what really happened, so she doesn't want to tell. But it just kind of annoyed me that you had to take away from Chloe after everything she went through in the first game. It kind of pissed me off. But if you ask what happened to her, then she then asks what happens to her. And you could say either she died or we broke up. Now, those are the choices. That's how you implement what happened to Chloe in the game. Not what did you pick. You say she died, which would be obviously you saved the town in the first game, or we broke up, which would be you saved her, but you clearly you broke up. Your relationship is no more. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, what the hell? After everything that happened in the first game, you're just gonna break up? Like, what could have possibly happened that's that bad? That's worse than literally an entire town getting destroyed that caused you to break up. And if you pick the ending where she's alive, like I did, you get, in case you didn't see it in the trailers, you can scroll through the menu, you can scroll through like your text messages and your social media, and you get to have text messages from Chloe. Victoria Chase is in there, and you could read through all of them. There's a lot at the beginning. It'll take you probably like 10, 15 minutes if you want to like really take your time to go through the beginning of the episode. I did because I went through Chloe's and Victoria's. The other ones I didn't read right away. I read as I went on because they're characters that are in this game. So I went through Chloe's, and you see the reason they. First of all, one of the things Max does is actually asks Chloe to move in with her on Valentine's Day, and you see it's a text message conversation back and forth, and Chloe actually asks Max that if she said no, would Max rewind time over and over again until she said yes. And you could see Max is kind of like flabbergasted, in a text message response. How could you think I would do that? Now that pissed me off because how could you, as Chloe, how could you think that after everything you're alive, so you know what Max did to keep you alive, but yet you're gonna ask that? That's and I think this is I think a mess up on Deck Nine's part because did you not play the game? Did you not see how vastly tied together they were? And you're gonna let Chloe basically like say a big F you to Max? Like it makes no it didn't I didn't like it at all. It pissed me off. It didn't make any sense. And you see that the reason they break up is it's not even a conversation. Chloe breaks up with Max in a letter that said like a handwritten note, not a text message, a handwritten letter that says she's trying to look forward on the future to, move past everything that happened in the town and Acadia Bay and her mom and her friends. But Max keeps looking in on the past and thinking about how she could change the past or what used to happen when she could change the past, and she's not looking forward, and that's messing it up. Like, really? It seemed too much of like a rush job. Like they were just trying to rush an ending into there and what could have happened. Um, the focus on the game itself, that it really took away from the first game and the impact Chloe had on Max. So I didn't like that at all. And it starts off where you're in the game, you move on, and you're in the game with your best friend Safi, and you're a teacher at this university in Vermont now, teaching photography. Safi's mom is the head of the university. She brings you in because she saw your pictures. You're friends with Safi and you're friends with this guy Moses, who's an astronomer. They're probably the same people you saw in the trailers if you saw it. Moses is the guy. Safi's the like Middle Eastern girl that you're friends with in the game. And she ends up dying, and you obviously have to figure out what happens, and that's where the main point of the game comes in. So now the main point of the game comes in. Safi dies. You hear a gunshot. You walk up. She's on the phone, and you see her sitting on a bench. Now you hear her. You see her walk up on a mountain. You see her. She leaves on the phone. She gets a crazy phone call. She walks up. You don't know what's going on. You start taking pictures, and you start having like flashbacks of everything. So as you're walking up to try to figure out what's going on, you see her. She walks out of the screen. You hear a gunshot, and you get there, and now she's sitting on a bench. But the bench is in view of you as you're walking up. So I don't know how she got there in the first place because you would have seen her sitting down. She walks out of camera view. You immediately hear a gunshot. And then when you get up there, you're looking for her, and she's sitting on the bench. There's no gun. There's no nothing. And you see her. She just falls over, and then you see that she has a gunshot wound to her heart, to her chest. But there's no gun. There's no camera around, like Safi's camera. She takes pictures too. She's got like this little Polaroid camera. There's no camera around. There's no gun. So how did she get shot? She's sitting down on the bench, but yet she was out of view on the bench to begin with. It annoyed me the way they did it because it looks like they messed up. Um, Safi dies. Moses shows up. He wasn't there when he gets there. He calls 911, and the episode starts and trying to figure out what happens. The episode ends after Max walks around, talks to everybody, and doing your normal thing, doing your investigation. The episode ends with Max having another one of those, headache things that in this game she realizes she can see two different timelines. She starts to hear Safi talking, and then she's able to move the timeline apart, and she could see Safi in the other timeline still alive. And she's able to actually finally, fight and struggle through to where she gets into that other timeline. Now and that's how it ends. You give Safi a hug, and the first episode ends there. And now the second episode starts, and you have to figure out what's really going on. Where are you in the timeline? What what day is it? Is it before Safi died? Is it after Safi? Like, is she still alive in this one, but after the day she died in the first timeline? And you don't know. She's trying to figure that out. Um, you're talking to the bartender Amanda, who has a crush on you in this game, and Safi, before she died in the first timeline, tries to get you to talk to her, and you could ask her whether you could whether you that you're gonna hang out, and she goes, is this a friend thing or a date thing? You could pick either one. I picked the friend thing because I couldn't go back on Chloe. I decided before this game even came out that if this came out and there was something like this in the game, I was just going to focus on basically preserving Chloe with my choices in this game. So I picked friends in this game. Everything else was just kind of hanging out because I'm max in this game, living my life where I'm still hung up on Chloe, rightfully so, and that's all my choice is going to go. So now you're going back and forth, and you have to figure out what's going on. And while you're in one timeline, you could actually spy on the other one, like just hitting the right bumper. Spies on if you're in the alive time, in the dead world, they call it, and the living world. If you're in the dead world and you need to get information from someone in the living world, you pulse and you could see you see like an outline of them, like an energy outline of them of what they're talking about and what they're saying. And then you can go back into that world and use that information while you're talking to them. And you have to do that a few times in order to move forward. It took me a second to realize, and there are some side stuff on there that aren't included. Like there's guys trying to find a bathroom key, and she's like, maybe I could spy on them. And I go, how? Like I forgot because when you first use that pulse, it's at the very beginning of the game of the first episode where you actually find out you have this power, and then you go through the whole thing, and you don't need to use it anymore. You can, but you don't need to. So if you don't, I actually totally forgot about it until it dropped a hint, to press the red button, and at that point I was already past and I couldn't go back. So I'll replay it just to see what happens. But it's messed up the way they do it. And everyone's like, how'd Safi die? You get there, you heard a gunshot, there's no gun. The cops get there, they're trying to figure out how she gets shot. Now they automatically think it's somebody close to her because how did she get shot right away up on the top of this mountain? Max shows up within a minute. Moses within a minute and a half. There's no gun. There's no camera around at all. And what happened? Like, how's she just there? She didn't shoot herself. They start talking about shooting herself, but she didn't have any gun on her. So what happened? There's something involved here, and the game doesn't address that. Which is you? I guess they address it by having you figure it out, but the spoilers involved in it is kind of weird. So you're sitting there trying to figure out what's going on. How is Safi alive? Can you rescue her? What happened? And you come down to like three main suspects in this game. One of them is this guy Vin, who's the head of like the club on campus, and he's like the secretary assistant guy for Safi's mom, who's the head of the university. The other one is Gwen, who is a tranny professor in the game. That's a guy that they say he's a girl, but it's a guy. So Safi ends up getting this book deal for her poetry, but although you find out that he helped her get it and was like her professor and helping her get it, he actually stops the book deal. So why does he stop the book deal? It's insane. And the other one is Lucas, another professor, that they give you these three things. Now, Vin, you find out Safi gets a cow skull thrown through a windshield. It's crazy. Now, Vin becomes a suspect because you tell him about the damage, and he goes, that's crazy. I can't believe someone threw that through a windshield. And then you hear Max think to herself, I never mentioned it was a windshield. So how did he know? right? And you're like, all right, he's automatically a suspect, but why? Now you know it's Life is Strange game, so there's other information here. Maybe he is a suspect, or maybe there's something else the game just hasn't told me yet that I haven't figured out. So he's going to be cool. Lucas finds out that somebody told his kid that he his kid told his mom that the dad said he was the cause of their divorce, and he never said it, and he thinks Safi did it. But why would Safi do it? So you don't know that, and you can tell by his reaction that he's legitimate and telling the truth. And the other one is Gwen, which why would Gwen, who is the guy that professor that helped her get this book deal in the first place, stop Safi from getting it? And you see the email in this. Now, you go up to the scene where she got killed, and you see Gwen up there. Now, this is where it starts because about halfway through the second episode, Gwen gets mad and she gets pissed, and he's on the phone. Again, I did it again. He gets mad, he gets pissed, he's on the phone, and he leaves saying that there's a disciplinary hearing on him for him. And when you go up there and talk to him, he finds out that he tells you that there's video footage of someone that looks like him selling drugs to other kids on campus, but it's not him. Max tells him to fight it, and he goes, "Yeah, well, what am I going to do?" Saying, "It's not me, it's my evil twin." One of the other kids in class, Reggie, one of Max's students, comes back and he's having this huge panic attack. And he said he went up to the mountain to find out what was going on, and he saw himself, not someone that looked like him. He saw himself, and he freaked out and he ran. He didn't want to talk to him. So you're like, okay, maybe the timelines are starting to merge, right? Like maybe some people could see each other but nobody else, and why? Why can they see each other but Max can see everybody? What's going on? And they don't really explain it. Now you're thinking about this while trying to figure out who the suspect was. I just thought it was Gwen more than anybody because he's the only one that we didn't have an explanation for. The teacher, you find out what it is. You don't think it's him because you find out. I deleted the picture, by the way. I didn't send it to her, to Safi, when you do that. So that's a choice you can make. Vin, I didn't think it was him. I kind of figured out it wasn't him, but you have to play through to find out why. And it turns out that Vin is actually hooking up with Safi. And you see pictures of that on Safi's phone, and no, on Vin's phone when you go through. They're in bed lying together, and Vin has like a selfie of them. So obviously they're hooking up. But okay, so that's how Vin knows. Now, if you don't get into the phone, you wouldn't have known that. And you can get into the phone two different ways. You can call in a favor or hack it yourself and save that favor. I decided I just want to get through the episode. I called in the favor I got from the other episode. I didn't hack it. If you do hack it yourself, the code's 1952. You have to look up the year one of his favorite people were born, 1952. So that left Gwen. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, what the hell? Now two people are seeing each other, but I can see everybody. Nobody else is seeing each other. And here's where the kicker: you going up to see Moses at his office, and you can't. You, he's the cop is there. There's a new cop investigating the crime. So like, all right, well, what's going on? And he goes, I took Safi's camera from the scene. And Max freaks out. And you have a choice to say that's evidence or, I could help you. So I chose to help him. And the cops are looking for the camera. And right off the bat, I'm like, wait a minute. How would the cops know that Safi had a camera? Just assume that she had a camera. And not only assume she had a camera, that she had the camera there at the scene. And somebody took it. Like, why? That doesn't make any sense. I don't understand how anybody would know after playing this game that Safi had a camera with her, took a picture of something having to do with the murder or her death, and somebody took it. It doesn't make any sense, especially when the only two people there were Max and Moses. So you have to go into the office, work the timelines, jump back and forth, the different realities, the living in the dead world, get the camera, go outside. Now, when you walk out, the cop walks in, and he asks you, hey, look, if you have any problems, if you find anything, any information at all, please let me know about the camera. And you have a choice, accept or refuse. Now, I didn't know where they were going with it, but if you think about it, I picked accept. At first, I thought accept would be I'm going to tell on Moses, but you can't tell on Moses because at that point you have the camera in your bag. So you can't say, yeah, Moses took it. And I didn't think the game was going to say, yeah, I have it, but it was really in Moses' office because how could you prove that? It made no sense to me. And I didn't want to reject the cop because I was figured he'd get more pissed at me. So I accepted it, figuring it was going to be just one of those, oh, yeah, sure, I'll tell you, don't worry about it. And then just smooth him off, but then not tell him. And that's exactly what happened. So I do that. I go outside. I show Moses. I get the camera. We go back to our house, my house. I have the dark room at the house. And Moses is going to um, set up the camera and get it ready in the dark room. So I go in there. You have to go back and forth a couple times in the timeline before you go in because a cat shows up. Pick a couple collectibles, and you go in, and you go in the dark room, and you see there's three pictures. First, you see the two pictures that Safi took that you know were on there because they're at the beginning of the game. So they're at the beginning of the game. You go back there, and then it goes. Of course, here's where the spoiler comes in. It goes, oh, look, Safi took another picture, of course, right? I even said, if you watch our playthrough, here we go. Now, the camera in the game is you looking at Max and Moses as if your eyes were the camera on the computer. And Max freaks out, Moses freaks out, he jumps up, what the hell? And on the game, again, if you listen to this is far in, spoilers already, but on the screen of the computer, you see a picture that Safi took, which is Max staring right at the camera with a gun and shooting. But now here's the thing. It's standing and she's standing with her arm out level with the gun. Not pointing down, not pointing up, straight on onto the screen. And now Moses obviously thinks clearly that Max did it. Max is like, "No, it wasn't me. I freaked out. You got to trust me. It wasn't me. You know I'm not capable of that." He's like, "That's why you took the camera. You tried to, cover yourself." And I don't know what's going to happen. I haven't played through like the collectible setup yet where I could change my choices just to see what's happened, but it doesn't affect the ending. But I was curious to see if I rejected the cop because Moses gets pissed. He's like, "Stay the fuck away from me," and he walks out. And then it just ends with Max freaking out on the screen, and that it's. And you see your choices. But I don't know if I picked reject the cop, if Moses would stay there or believe me in a different way. So I'm gonna go back through that just to check that out. But here's here's where, and that's how it ends. So it ends with Max is the killer. But now remember, Gwen got charged, but Max sees everybody. Everybody else is seeing people just themselves from the timeline. Reggie saw just themselves. Gwen saw a video of just himself selling drugs to other kids on campus. So in this timeline, it got uh, there. But how did that video get around? How did a video from another timeline get transferred to this timeline showing Gwen selling drugs? Because clearly it didn't happen in this one. So how did that come across? Doesn't make any sense. The picture I could see because maybe is Gwen in this timeline chilling in his office or at his house while the other reality Gwen is here walking around and it hasn't no one's caught on to it yet. Reggie saw himself, but that hasn't caught on. So I don't get why if Max could see everybody and everybody's going around doing their normal nice person thing, why are these alternate reality people coming in like they're evil? Like, so evil Max comes in and it kills Safi for whatever the hell reason. Reggie is doing nothing. Gwen somehow is selling drugs to the kids on campus and is getting caught, but is there's video of that now. Who brought that video? If it's around campus, who filmed it? Who brought it here? It's on a flash drive that you have a choice to save or let burn. I chose to save it, but we don't have the ability to watch it in this game. So why is that happening? How is there evil people in a different timeline when everybody else is good and just these people are evil so far? And it brings me to the point of I I get the cliffhanger, but the way they set up the cliffhanger doesn't make any sense to me. Remember, and if you watch this before you play, you'll see it. You're sitting there hanging out. Safi gets a phone call. She's all pissed off. She says she just got this book deal or and everything, and she gets a phone call and she has to leave. Clearly, that phone call is what we find out later that the book deal's off the table now because of Gwen. So now Safi's all pissed. She walks up. You follow her up the mountain. You see her at the top of the mountain. At this point, you see her walk out of view, and the second she walks out of view, you hear a gunshot. So there's no possible way she could be sitting down on the bench when she gets shot based on what we see in the game. It's not possible. And since she got shot in the chest, there's no way after she got shot in the chest, she's able to physically walk around and sit back down in that bench because there'd be blood in the snow. There isn't any blood in the snow, nowhere else around. So it doesn't jive. There's no logical conclusion to how you got from, you know, A to D without going through B and C. It doesn't make any sense. Plus, your angle of us that we have in the game when we're walking up the mountain, we would have seen Max standing there shooting Safi because we hear the gunshot and we're looking up at the mountain when we hear the gunshot. So why don't we see ourselves from whatever the hell timeline we're in shoot Safi? It doesn't make any sense. Number one. And number two, in the picture, when you see our like evil self, whoever it is, in the other timeline shooting Safi, like I said, she's pointing straight on and Max is standing up. Meanwhile, Safi would have to be standing up. And she's standing directly in front of the bench, Max, when she shoots, which means Safi would have to be there. But she's not because she walked out of frame when we heard the gunshot. So it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up, which pisses me off. I could see the cliffhanger. I fully expected there be a cliffhanger. I mean, it's Life is Strange. I didn't expect, and I played the game knowing, like, okay, this is what Life is Strange does. They set you up to think this, so clearly that's not what's happening. It's got to be something else. And I still didn't put together that it was going to be Max that shot. I just figured maybe since I could see the other world, the other people could see just themselves in the other world. It makes sense. But why is there evil versions of just these people? Of just Gwen and just, well, Reggie's not even evil. We don't know anybody. But there's just like evil Gwen who's selling drugs to kids on campus. Reggie's just there chilling, doing nothing. If he does do something, we don't know yet. And evil Max? How? Why is Max killing people in the other timeline? I don't get it. And I can't even see, well, okay, well, maybe Max didn't shoot Safi. It was somebody else, and Max went to shoot somebody else. But still, if that's the case, where's that other body? It, it, it doesn't add up, and you'll see it because the angles don't add. They don't jive. The the details don't line up with how people were set up and situated in pictures and details. At least they say you don't have to be a cop to figure this out. You can see it. And it pisses me off because I can't wait to see what happens now. I'm mad I got to wait 2 weeks to the 29th to see the other episodes. Now, all 5 episodes do come out at the same time. So if you played these first two, you only have to play the first three, or you could sit through all five, figure 10, 12 hours, I'd imagine, for 5 episodes. Um, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to change this. There's clearly going to be a lot more twists and turns, but I don't get how they're going to twist and turn to where this is going to make sense. So that kind of annoyed me. And I don't know if they're going to bring Chloe back into this one. You do see a picture of Joyce. There's no messages from her in your phone. There's a social media uh, thing that you could scroll through where people post. Um, Victoria is down in Louisiana now. She's doing, I forget what she's doing. She's in there. And Chloe and Max, they go all over the place. There's a picture of them in like in Arizona. They go to Louisiana, they go to LA, all over the place, and then they break up. But there's still a text message conversation on there that's recent. The text messages don't have dates. The social media ones do. So I don't know if they're going to bring her in. I don't know if just, yeah, they broke up and that's it. And she's going to be used only as a reference and frame of recollection and help Max make choices in this game. I hope not. I don't know. The You do hear flashbacks of the end of the first game, and you hear Chloe talking. It sounds off. I honestly I can't tell if it's Ashley Birch's voice. Max is clearly Max. I can't tell if it's Ashley Birch's voice. It sounds like maybe they just, replayed the scene from the first one, but I honestly I can't tell. I don't know if it's Ashley or not. If it says Chloe on the screen in the subtitles, you can see it. But I can't tell. I don't know. Um, it upset me, pissed me off that the way they chose those wordings. Like, if you're gonna say she's alive, okay, she's alive, but you can't. You're gonna give a choice to either we were just friends or we were kind of high school sweethearts. That that's bullshit. If you want to say just friends, that should be your lie answer, and that should be your way you're hiding the information from Safi. Like, oh, I'm still working through it as Max. I don't want to tell her, even though she's my friend. I'm just gonna say we're just friends, and it'll come out later if it comes out. Okay, but if you're gonna go, don't go halfway. Either just say friends, or yeah, we were in love, and this is what happened. And then if you want to say we broke up, I'm still pissed off about that, but at least that's an answer. I would no way say she died. At the end of the choices, at the end of the first game, you could see what you picked, and I don't know if maybe it's because there's not a lot of people played yet because it's early access, or a lot of people didn't play. But only 60% of the people in my playthrough when I was done chapter one chose Chloe lived. 40% chose she died, which made no sense to me. And then of the people, then I don't know if the percentage shed that says she lived or died. So obviously, of the people that said she lived, it was something like 70% said they were high school sweethearts, and 30% said she lived, which is crazy to me. It makes absolutely no sense. Because if you think about it, if 60% said she lived and only 70% of that 60 said they were high school sweethearts, that means only 42% of people thought that they were involved. Max and Chloe were a thing, which is insane to me because that's the whole point of playing this game. But I don't know. If you guys have played through it, let us know in the comments below, especially like what you thought of the cliffhanger and the secret reveal that evil Max being the killer or whatever. And let me know if you picked up on these details. Remember, watch it again. Quick recap. When Safi leaves and you're walking up the mountain and you see her on the phone, she walks out of screen to your left. As soon as she walks out of view, you hear the gunshot. But the bench is right there. And if she would have walked around and sat on the bench where she was sitting on a bench, you would have seen her. And if you would have seen her, that means you would have seen Evil Max from the other timeline shoot her. And if she was standing, she wouldn't have been able to sat down. There would have been blood on the snow. There's no blood on the snow. So it doesn't jive and mix together the way they did this. Let us know what you think below. We're going to have full playthrough episode 3 through 5, 3, 4, and 5 when it comes out. We have to wait another 13 days, unfortunately, for that to happen. Comes out on the 29th. Make sure you like and subscribe below. Again, I'm not sure how it's going to be set up. Let us know what you think below in the comments. And again, follow us on X. And until next time, Mike from the Logical Gamer Show. Take it easy, everybody.